Vasudevaya. Canto 2, Chapter 3, text number 1. 2, 3, 1. Narayanam namaskritya Naram chaiva narottamam Devim saraswatim vyasam Tato jayamudirayat Shri Shuka uvacha Evam etan digaditam Prishtavan yad bhavan mama Nam yan mriyamananam Manushyeshu manishanam Evam etan nigamatam Prishtavan yad bhavan mama Nam yan mriyamananam Manushyeshu manishanam. Shukadeva Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, as you have inquired from me as to the duty of the intelligent man who was on the threshold of death, I have answered you. Report. In human society, all over the world, there are millions and billions of men and women, and almost all of them are less intelligent because they have very little knowledge of the spirit soul, Almost all of them have a wrong conception of life, where they identify themselves with gross and subtle material bodies, which they are not, in fact. They may be situated in different high or low positions in the estimation of human society, but one should know definitely that unless one inquires about his own self beyond the body and the mind, all his activities in human life are total failures. Therefore, out of thousands and thousands of men, one may inquire about his spirit self, thus consult the revealed scriptures like Vedanta Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam. But in spite of reading and hearing such scriptures, unless one is in touch with a realized spiritual master, he cannot actually realize the real nature of the self. And out of thousands and hundreds of thousands of men, someone may know what Lord Krishna is in fact. In Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 20, 122 to 23, it is said that Lord Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, prepared the Vedic literature in the incarnation of Vyasadeva for reading by the intelligent class of man in human society, which is almost totally forgetful of the genuine relation with Krishna. Even such an intelligent class of men may be forgetful in their relation with the Lord. The whole Bhakti Yoga system is therefore a revival of the lost relation. This revival is possible in the human form of life, which is obtained only out of the evolutionary cycle of 8,400,000 species of life. The intelligent human being must take serious notice of unity. Not all human beings are intelligent. So, the importance of human life is not always understood. Therefore, the Nishinam, meaning thoughtful, particularly the Nishinam, persons like Maharaj Krishna, must therefore take the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, fully engage himself in the service, hearing, chanting, etc., of the holy name and the pastimes of the Lord, which are So a little review. This is chapter 3, first verse. And the first verse, Prabhupada, Shukadeva Goswami is saying, he's already answered an important question, one of the important questions. Of course, he already answered it in the first canto, but here it is again in the second canto, expanded from the first canto. That is, what's the duty of a man or person who's about to die? What is that subject matter that they should hear, chant, and always remember? Trotavya kirtidavyasya gyaya pujas chinitida. And so just a quick review. The first chapter of Canto 2 is the first step of God realization. So in summary, there's many details, but in summary, the universal form. To see everything in relation to the Supreme. The description of the universal form in Canto 2, Chapter 1, is different than the universal form described in the Bhagavad Gita and other places where the universal form is exhibited and then described. While the details are different, the principle is the same principle. There's one Supreme, and the one Supreme manifests everything. And the form of that everything, the universal form, is meant to depict everything has its origin, rather than going through what the universal form in Bhagavad Gita describes and what here it describes. They're different, but the principle is the same. That's the first step. And a significant part of what the evening seminar is also conveying, naturally so, because devotional service has to be, is chapter 3 is resting upon chapter 1. Devotional service must, it's not optional, it must include seeing the Supreme Lord within everything, and how to see the Supreme Lord within everything when you don't have magnifying glass or the eyes to see, the spiritual acumen to see. Then at least in faith, in principle, and then comes the sadhana. So chapter 2 of Canto 2 is a description of meditation upon the form of the Lord within the heart. The Lord in the heart. Title. So the process of Ashtanga Yoga in detail. At least, the outline of it in detail. And the practice requires even more detail, but not only the universe or all things, forms and manifestations of the cosmic affair are resting upon the Supreme, then comes focusing upon the Supreme within. And then what that process is and what such a Ashtanga yogi meditates upon, it's not different than what's described in Bhagavad Gita. It's also described in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna describes in chapter 6 how the practitioner of yoga, meaning in this case Ashtanga yoga, fixes his mind in the form of the Supreme. So here's a slower, more detailed version of fixing the mind on the Supreme. So when that those two, chapter 1 and chapter 2 themes, indicate what one is to hear, chant, and always remember. And that's how this chapter begins. So Shukadeva Goswami introduces chapter 3. As you inquired from me as to the duty of the intelligent man who is on the threshold of death, so I've answered you. Now he's going to go further because that Ashtanga Yoga, as we know from Bhagavad Gita, doesn't stop with meditation, dhyana, meditation, and then service, meditation upon, if the Lord so desires, he, for the qualified yogi, he may show his form within the heart. And the yogi is meant to focus on that form within the heart. And by the mind going there, then the soul goes there, or consciousness. Because the mind is an instrument. And here, in the purport, Prabhupada is speaking that there are persons that have different conceptions of life. We discussed this a little bit yesterday evening. Conceptions of life are carried in the mind. And where do we get those conceptions? Based upon the association, the metaphor that was used in Bhagavad Gita also is air carries aroma. Mind carries conceptions. And the aroma depends upon what the air is passing over. And then an aroma or flavor or fragrance is carried. And then in the process of bhakti, or the process of yoga, Ashtanga yoga and other forms of yoga, that's the objective. That the mind then, by following the process properly, the Shravanam Kirtanam process properly, the mind, in a purified and mature stage, flows, or is drawn to. That's what the verse yesterday evening was saying. The mind is drawn to the Supreme Soul, or Super Soul. And then when the mind goes there, then comes next, chapter 3. And chapter 3 is the practical activities that one engages in that condition. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stagnate. It's very dynamic. So the process of devotional service, pure devotional service, the change of heart part means from material to spiritual. The orientation of the heart to wanting to be an independent enjoyer of Prakriti, to seeing Prakriti from chapter 1, seeing Prakriti in relation to the Supreme, fixing one's mind upon the Supreme within, and then within every living being, and then practical devotional service. That's the idea. I mean, it's quite natural that there's symmetry in different portions of Srimad Bhagavatam. That the narration language can be different, but the principle doesn't differ. So here it's laying a foundation, or a principle-based understanding. And then comes the application of the principle. Without blink, Prabhupada is doing what he always does. That is, without understanding the soul, one is not intelligent, because the verse is saying intelligent men, but who's intelligent? Or what is intelligent? So, vast majority, Manushanam Sahasreshu Kastya. That's even amongst those who are learned persons. So, learned persons are unintelligent also, according to Krishna and Bhagavad Gita, and according to this explanation here. And what's the criterion? They don't know who they are. In the presentation on respect, we're going to hear the same thing from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. There's four different categories and subcategories of those four categories of obstacles that block bhakti, and one is having a misconception of tattva. Tattva means truth. So, sva tattva, like the conception of oneself. One can have, one commonly does, as our experiences and this purport is reconfirming, misconception of self. And one carries that misconception in the mind. And it's not easy to purify the mind or eliminate the misconception and leave. When the misconception is eliminated, what's left? Well, it depends. If you're an impersonalist or a Buddhist, then it's I am Brahman or I am nothing. Without sufficient hearing. So the sufficient hearing can replace those two options with who we really are. And then para tattva, the supreme. And then tattva, the sadhana tattva, the means to get to those realizations. They're different, so it's different language describing essentially the same thing. And one can be identified according to the attainment of consciousness that one has reached in different stages. So one, like the yoga system, one may be called a karma yogi because they're fixed in this paradigm, and then Gyan yogi and Gyan yogi, and so. But the topmost yoga includes the benefits of each of those, but then much more. So that sounds a little proud, or you're like, there you go again, saying you're the best. It's not we're saying we're the best, it's Krishna's indicating these are standards of consciousness. And one can describe those standards of consciousness in different ways. Like consciousness of the Supreme, Aratattva, by the process of bhakti, and not by the process of Gyan, or the process of karma, not attainable. One will get a misunderstanding, unless one takes bhakti. But that's what is being presented here. There's different ways of saying the same thing, but that's okay. From this angle and that angle, different ways, it makes the object that's being examined more clear. So what's needed? Back to the purport. Scripture. And an atheist doesn't like Scripture. A Buddhist doesn't like Scripture. A materialist doesn't like Scripture. Or if they like Scripture, they cherry pick and see according to their liking. It just confirms my disposition. That's what they see. So how to get the unfiltered version? That's also indicated. The qualified acharya, qualified spiritual master, qualified teacher. By the process of hearing. And then by the process of hearing two things. Misconceptions can be cleared. This is like filtering water or filtering air or filtering, extracting impurities from something. Extracting impurities from gold. So you end up with pure gold. Extracting impurities process, in principle, is by proper sound vibration. In proper sound vibration can create a situation where the impurities are removed gradually, and then the proper conception, the proper activities directed by that conception. And then, not just by knowledge, but by practical application through service and loving service, ideally. So that's what's coming up in this chapter, how that whole process works. But this is just an introduction saying this is what we covered. These are necessities to be an eligible recipient that is intelligent. Intelligent with the standard of knowing who we are, at least in principle, spirit, soul. To take that spiritual conception and expand it. Through the explanation of pure devotional service, change in heart. It's wonderful. It's a transformative, the heart's orientation prior is self-centered and ego-centered and sense gratification oriented, and then to delete that program and put in its place Krishna centered, or soul and Krishna centered, and the senses are meant for service of the master of the senses. That's the transformation. And then there's the cultivation or sadhana that has its impediments coming from our material conditioning. But the staying clear, guided by the direction of Scripture and teachers, qualified teachers, then one can move along the path towards what this pure devotional service changes heart. The heart's orientation can be different. Or the healthy state, the heart is like this. The diseased state, the heart is like that. And then somewhere in between. But the principle of the pure heart, the principle of the diseased heart, they're to be known. Nice topic. Yeah.
Maharaj, this purport is like very, very clearly explained the value of having the human body. So as it says, the intelligent man who can understand this value have to do even at the time of death, have to remember Krishna by hearing and chanting and all that it explains. But my question is, in the evening yesterday class you talked about that the four type of the toxic mind, which has avinya, upeksha and dvesha and ninda. So all this has to be it naturally comes along with our mind. So if the mind is not in that purified state, even then if he listens to Krishna Katha at the time of death, or engage in hearing and chanting, without this proper purification, would that help that soul?
Let's consider from Canto 6 Bhagavatam, Jamila. So from scriptural examples, we can understand. Even if, now, in his case, he didn't go back to Godhead. He was rescued from death. And then a light went on. And he realigned his life. He left that abominable situation, went to the Himalayas, took shelter in a Vishnu temple, engaged in very ardent devotional service, and then the very same 4 Vishnu Dutas came and rescued him in a Vaikuntha Vimana. So there's benefit, yes, and then exactly how it plays itself out is going to be different for different persons. You know, the eligibility to return to the spiritual world is Shuddha Bhakti, unalloyed, not unmixed. So your question is, supposing you're mixed. I mean, you're not saying in this language, but supposing you're mixed or not, you're not there yet. Is it possible at the time of death, hearing a certain sound, you can attain the Supreme? That seems to be your question. There's certainly benefit, but attaining the Supreme has a prerequisite to the Bhakti. Now, the power, Krishna can do anything. The power of Bhakti is one of the instruments of Krishna, so the power of Bhakti is all-powerful. So in other words, Krishna can arrange for the clouds to part and then the fullness of the light of the sun to come through, and at that moment of death, and one can achieve. Krishna can do anything he wants. But in general, the exception is the exception, and the rule is the rule. You want to say something more? Go ahead.
Follow-up question.
Yeah.
So, in the purport, it says, like the rules, what you mentioned now, the rules, it says one should come in contact with a spiritual master who has realized the soul, and then practice with that knowledge and purify the conscious. And hear this at the time of death. Sometimes if you have all these rules followed, and at the time of death, your conscious is not in your hand. Sometimes you don't have a chance of, there is an option of unconscious or something can happen. So in that case, if one person who practiced all these rules, that will also help.
Yeah, okay. Your help is one thing, perfection is more.
It's a different scenario.
There's form and there's substance. Rules are form. Substance is bhakti. Rules can help one. Your language, both questions help. And it helps. But it's not the essence. There's form and there's essence. So one can overemphasize either one, and that either one, overemphasis of either one is a mistake. Essence without form, what's that? It's a ghost. A soul without a body. An apparition. So both are needed. Let's go back. Ultimately, the deliverer is Krishna. But Krishna, for those persons who had or attained a material body because of raga and dvesha, that has he the source of the body in the raga and the dvesha, has the position to touch it with a magic wand and purify. But generally there's a sadhana, not just touch with a magic wand. He can deliver anybody, like Putana. He can do anything. There's no limit. There is no limit. But then that's the exception, and then there's the rule. So form or rules is important. We don't ignore the rules, but it's not the essence.
Thank you.
Boy, you want to add something? Okay. You have something?
Oh.
No. Yeah.
Kind of like a follow-up question to Mataji. Is it really necessary to contemplate too much on where we're going in our next lifetime?
No.
Yeah.
Attaining Krishna consciousness is not a change of address.
Mm-hmm.
It's a change of consciousness. That's where so Mama Janmani Jamanishre Bhavatad Bhakti. So that's the consciousness is Haitaki Bhakti.
Mm-hmm.
That's the contemplation.
So become Krishna conscious today, basically.
Yeah, today.
Yeah.
So we will go wherever Krishna wants us to go anyway. So you don't have to petition Krishna, I want to change my address. A change of consciousness. And then Krishna can engage us in however he wants to engage us. And it's just fine. If, it's just fine. No, there's one commonly, there's a qualifier, often a qualifier. Please, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, please let me take birth in a place where there's devotee association. I can take birth as a dog in the home of a devotee. Now, most devotees don't keep dogs, but that's his plea. It's devotee association. And with that, there's implied are many things. You don't just hang out and wag your tail. You engage in loving, faithful service for those persons who you have that opportunity to associate with. And there's other, Prahlad, Narada, Dhruva. They want the association of Narada. They just want the association of pure devotees, please. So that's the condition, but whatever, with the association of exalted devotees.
So for the devotee, it's most important to continue their journey of spiritual life.
Yeah, it's consciousness. And attaining pure consciousness, not attaining a change of address. Now, often, like many, many, many times, including the masthead of his magazine, Back to Godhead, he would indicate Back to Godhead. In purports, he would indicate Back to Godhead. And then what does that mean? Does it mean a change of address? Or does it mean change of consciousness? That's Back to Godhead, change of consciousness. You got something else again? Okay.
It says in the purport at the last, fully and therefore take to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and fully engage himself in devotional service like hearing and chanting, etc. of the holy name and pastime of the Lord, which are Harikatha. So it's a curious question, Maharaj. So what does it refers here, the devotional service fully?
What?
It refers to devotional service as fully.
Devotional service as?
Like full devotional service. What does it mean?
What does it mean?
Here, it does.
Oh, you know. That and nothing else. So eating or sleeping or, maintaining your body, bathing, thising and thating. Let it be like the question yesterday about gardening. Let it be for Krishna. That's full.
The whole activity.
You're repeating. Yes, full, full. Everything. It's not something that falls in a different category. Everything. 24/7 at any stage of life. No, that's elevated, but that's what pure devotional service is. You have something online? No. Okay. Okay, we're going to end. I have one request. Those of you that bring the Bhagavatam with you, that's very nice. Please don't put the Bhagavatam on the floor. Figure out something. Put it on your lap. You've seen many portraits or photos of our acharyas, and commonly they have by their side or on their lap, a whole stack of books to indicate that's where they are. They're representatives of, and so it's a principle that, like, Mridanga doesn't go directly on the floor. You figure it out, that's something, and paraphernalia that's used in the worship of the deity doesn't go on the floor. And the Bhagavatam doesn't go on the floor. We can sit on the floor, that's fine. But the sacred articles don't go on the floor. And it's a matter of training, but it's a matter of also making distinctions of, some things can go on the floor and some things can't, etc. We put shoes on our feet, but we don't put our feet on other objects. It's a, there's rules, and the rule is just, it's on the same point. It's a principle of respect, and without the principle of respect, then supposing somebody doesn't know any better, it's not the. Prabhupada explains the Hare Krishna movement wasn't introduced by giving rules. When persons in the beginning, they did whatever they did in Prabhupada's presence, and he didn't instruct unless it got to the stage where they wanted something more formal than substance. Than essence. They were attracted by him and the bhakti process. Then if they wanted initiation, then he gave some rules. And, now as time evolved, rules came a little bit earlier, like right within the first canto Bhagavatam, that Maharaj Parikshit and stopping the personality of Kali, and the culture, the Hare Krishna movement culture indicated there are certain things we don't do. And then there's refinement and refinement. So I don't want to overemphasize rules, but it's just part of respect. Making distinctions based upon that which is connected to Krishna, we respect in a special way. That's all. Yeah. Can you speak a little louder?
Circulation.
Speculation?
No, circulation.
Circulation?
Yeah, in the WhatsApp group, saying that we shouldn't be bowing down to the spiritual master or anybody in front of the deity.
Yes, I arranged for that. I requested that be circulated.
Yes, Maharaj. So in that case, so we have deities here.
Yeah.
And Guru Maharaj, you're sitting there.
Yeah.
And so
you just apply the principle. It's not these deities are different, categorically different than a deity or the deities in the temple. These deities are deities. So, how do we offer respect? We offer respect. We don't, just what that statement says. And how to apply it may be a little awkward or, different than our convention. But our convention may not be according to Shastra. I purposely requested it to be circulated so that, it's just one of those things that we should be conscious of, the deity. And respect the spiritual master in a different way. Or a sannyasi, or, a worthy of respect person. That there's form and there's substance. Respect is the substance or the essence. And there are different forms according to circumstance. Is it clear?
Yes, and so would it be appropriate in this situation if we take, for example, I offer my obeisances there and offer to you as well?
Yeah.
From there?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Because, that picture is on the altar, so then, you've understood correctly.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki.